Hannah Murray on TRE in the afternoon.
Joining us on the line now is Dee Caffari MBE, who has circumnavigated the globe 6 times. She is the first woman to have sailed single-handedly and non-stop around the world in both directions, and the only woman to have sailed non-stop around the world 3 times. She recently arrived in France after 57 days at sea, and her all-female crew were the first in 26 years to attempt the feat and complete it without any outside assistance. Welcome to the show, Dee.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you. I genuinely don't know where to start. Reading your biog, I'm like, wow, this woman is amazing.
It's funny because it's not until somebody kind of lists the achievements that you think, oh, actually, I've done quite a lot. So it made me feel quite proud.
Oh, good. Well, you should. You really should. I mean, to do a world first must be incredible, but to do multiple world firsts, I mean, how does that feel?
Well, I'm extremely lucky. As you say, there aren't many world firsts left without getting ridiculous. And I've been very lucky to have had a few in my career. So I jump at the opportunities and I'm prepared to push myself, challenge myself. And so far, so good. They've all been pulled off. But I'm sure I'll go out one day and I'll come a cropper. But so far, it's looking pretty good.
Oh, amazing. So how did you get into sailing? How did that journey start?
Well, it was a complete career change because when I throughout my childhood, I was doing dance lessons and then I played more and more sport, and sailing didn't really come into my life until I was at university and I was doing a sports science degree. So it came into my life late. I actually qualified as a school teacher and spent 5 years teaching before I did the career change and tried something completely new. And I always said to my mum, you know, if it all goes wrong, I can always go back to teaching. But fortunately, it didn't go wrong. And now I go back into schools to inspire.
Oh, fantastic. So what was the first kind of challenge that you took on? How do you go from sailing for enjoyment or doing it as a hobby to doing things like this?
Well, I took a job as in the offshore world, because the lovely thing about the sport of sailing is there's multiple disciplines. You know, we see it in the Olympics with the dinghies. We see people cruising on holiday and on charter boats. We see people owning their own boats. And it was the offshore sailing and then the racing that really got me excited, being out there for days on end, funneling the energy of Mother Nature and trying to make it work. And it was an opportunity to be a skipper in the Round the World race with Sir Che Blythe. That was my first kind of big round the world where I had 17 people paying for the adventure of a lifetime and I was responsible for them. And my job was to get them safely around the world and manage their expectations. And then Sir Che Blythe is known because he did what was called the impossible voyage, which was sail solo non-stop around the world, what's considered the wrong way, so against the winds and currents. And he turned around and said to me while I was skipper on his race, you know, there's only a matter of time before a woman follows in my footsteps. Have you considered it? So he planted the seed, knowing exactly what it would do. And luckily for me, it germinated. And 6 months later, I was off around the world on my own.
Oh, incredible. So just explain the differences between, as I mentioned in the introduction, you've gone both ways. And when you say sailing the wrong way, so explain the differences between the two.
I know. My first introduction to a school talk was I was introduced as the lady that went the wrong way around the world. And the first question I had was like, didn't anybody tell you? But, you know, I just loved it. But it's considered the wrong way because it's against the winds and currents due to the Earth's rotation. So you go down the bottom of the Atlantic and you turn right. So it's west about. So if you were to stop and do nothing, basically you'd go backwards, which is very demoralizing. You spend a lot of your time zigzagging around the world because you can't sail into the wind. And so the mileage is much further and it takes you a lot longer. And then I learned why everybody else goes the other way around the world, because literally everything's helping you then, the currents and the winds and everything. But the boat goes much faster. So control feels a little bit scarier and you're a little bit more on the edge. So there's pluses and minuses to both ways around the world, but I'm lucky I did what's considered the hard way first, so the wrong way around the world first, because now I don't ever have to do that again. It's tough.
Gosh. So how much longer did it take going that way?
So when I went the wrong way around the world, it took 178 days. So that's 6 months at sea, and you miss out on an awful lot. And there's actually only 6 of us in the world that have done that. And I'm still the only woman to be crazy enough to have done that challenge.
Wow.
But I'm very lucky now to have done multiple laps the other way around.
Amazing. And being out at sea, sometimes completely on your own or sometimes with a crew, not everybody could or would want to take on a challenge like that. I mean, being in your own head for that amount of time, and also being the only person responsible for you staying alive, I guess. I mean, that's quite a lot to take on.
Yes, and people think it's the physicality that's difficult, but actually your body adapts to any physical demands you put on it over time. I mean, we all know the first press up or pull up is impossible, but you build up to it and you get stronger and you can do multiple by the end. But it's the psychology that's the tough place to be. We all know we have good days and bad days, and the secret is trying to make that as level as possible so you don't have the peaks and troughs and the emotional roller coaster. And I know from my experience, my first couple of circumnavigations was very much an emotional roller coaster. And you waste a lot of energy, in these tears or extreme joy. And you need to find that middle ground so that you manage yourself a little better. So I actually went to see a sports psychologist when I became much more competitive and managed that. And it's all interacted with your hydration, your food, your sleep. And so the better you can manage yourself, the better your emotional stability is, and you get a much better performance.
Oh, amazing. And with regards to doing it with a team of people, how well do you know those people before you go off? Because I imagine you need to get on for a start. You need to know and respect each other's roles. And, again, that's a very different challenge, I suppose.
Absolutely. And you don't always get it right. As much as you think you do know somebody, different environments stress people in different ways. And there's a certain amount that you have to be quite flexible and agile and relaxed about life. You can't let things wind you up because a boat is not a place to have friction. So you need to kind of have that relationship where you can be honest with each other, supportive with each other, but also tell each other to either go and eat something or have a sleep or just calm down. Yeah. It is a tough environment, but if you do, have that trust and respect, as you mentioned, then it can get you through anything, really.
Yeah. And tell us about your most recent challenge then that you completed with an all-female crew.
Well, it's probably one of the most exciting, and it only finished at the end of January this year. So super recent. We went around the world on a 100-foot trimaran. There were 8 of us on board, and literally it had been 26 years since Tracy Edwards went round on a boat called Royal Sun Alliance, and they dismasted just before Cape Horn. And to date, there hasn't been any other female team try it. So we were like, wow, in this day and age, that's crazy. We need to do something about that. It was the brainchild of the French sailor Alexia Barrier, and she asked me to be her co-skipper. And we put an international team together. So luckily for me, we sailed in English, but we had 7 different nationalities on board between 8 of us. And we set off on a boat that we didn't really have much experience on. So we grew in confidence as we went on. We were faced with numerous challenges, but at the end of the day, we went around in 57 days. We are the 5th fastest team to go around the world on a multi-hull, and we're the first female team ever to do it. So it was a real sense of achievement. It was a very wet, rainy, windy day in January when we finished. And the start and finish line is between the Lizard Lighthouse in Cornwall and the Ushant Lighthouse in northern France. And as we came across there, we'd just literally faced Storm Ingrid, if anyone can remember that from January, where that whole kind of Northern Europe coast was battered by storms. Well, we experienced most of them. So it was really tough right up until the final moments. But, we had an amazing experience. And now what we've said is we learnt so much on that round the world that we want the opportunity to go again, because now we know what we're doing.
Amazing. And how much of an impact does weather like that make? I mean, I was going to say you can't plan for weather. Obviously, you can see, if and what might be occurring. But what can you do to protect yourself against weather like that?
Well, weather's the interesting thing. And that, if you're lucky, there's always an element of luck. You plan as best you can, but you also need Lady Luck with you. And you try and avoid the worst of the weather. But what happens is as you get closer and closer to the finish line, your options run out, get fewer and fewer. You can't go off in a different direction to get better weather or a better sea state. Eventually, you've just got to handle it. And we'd been very lucky around the world to kind of position ourselves with good weather that was good for the boat and good for us. But as we got to those final miles between the Azores and the finish line, it was the final 1,500 miles. They were probably the toughest miles we had on our round the world. And we just knew we were so close to the finish line. We were like, wow, we're only a couple of days away. Please just let this work.
Oh, and it did.
Yes, it did. But there was a lot of issues along the way, and we kind of limped our way. It felt like we'd been into battle, and we were very visibly wearing the scars of battle.
Oh, unbelievable. And with all the trips that you've done that are non-stop, that means obviously you've got to have all the food and everything like that you could possibly need on board. What kind of food can you take with you on a trip like that when you're away for months at a time?
Yeah, it takes a bit of organising and a bit of planning, especially with multiple people, and everyone's got different tastes. We had some vegetarians, we had some people that liked some things, some people that didn't like others. So we eat freeze-dried food because there's no refrigeration or much storage on board a boat. So it's all just packets of dried food, and all we have to do then is boil some water and add it. And 10 minutes later, we've made, by magic, spaghetti bolognese or chicken curry or whatever it is. So we all picked our favourite meals, and we organised our, 7 weeks of 7 days. And we knew that we wouldn't all eat all our meals. So we knew that there would be enough. So we actually took 49 days of full food, and we made it last for 57 days. But there was a few treats snuck on the boat by our shore team to keep us happy. And we also planned our snacks as well. And some people prefer sweet snacks. Some people prefer salty snacks. And you also have to account for the weather. So in the Atlantic, you're going to be in the tropics in the middle. So it's going to be sunny and warm. So you want to eat different things to maybe the stuff that you want to eat when you're in the south or the Southern Ocean when it's super cold. So those treats could have ranged from chocolate to rice cakes to cheese to sausage to noodles, and so everybody had their own tastes and everybody had their own snacks. And there's a little bit of trading going on towards the finish. But pretty much we did okay. And the ambition always is with food is that you maybe lose 2 or 3 kilos, but you shouldn't lose any more if you've got your food right.
Okay. Interesting. And with regards to different personalities and things like that, are any of you friends before you do something like this? And do you become friends or stay friends afterwards?
Yeah, I think you've got it right if, the friendship that you have beforehand is, kind of mutual respect and, there's, okay, we're about to do this and challenge together. But if you're still friends afterwards, I think that shows that it stands the test of time and the pressure and the challenges that you've been through. And we're all very close still. And it seems weird now not having a little WhatsApp message every day from everybody like, this is the plan for tomorrow. This is what we're doing. And, so we always check in with each other. You go through something quite unique and quite special together as a crew when you take on a round the world challenge. And it bonds you for life, I think, over that. And I think that beats any kind of frustrations that you may have had along the way, if there were any.
Yeah. And in terms of going back to weather, aside from the storms and everything, just the difference between hot and cold. Being cold, doing what you're doing must be really challenging. And also being really hot, challenging in a different way.
Yes, and actually, weirdly, it's the cold that's easier to manage. You can put extra layers on. The technical clothing these days is really very good. And it's all about managing the layers and making sure you don't get wet, which sounds silly, you're on a boat. But once you get anything wet, it's so hard to dry it. But the difficult one is trying to live and sleep when you're in the heat. There's nowhere to hide. You go on deck, you're in the sun, and just managing that and the dehydration and the restlessness because you don't sleep that well either. That's probably harder to manage than it is the cold.
Yeah. And with regards, I mean, you've done these kind of trips a lot now, but what kind of training do you need to do? What kind of preparation do you do before taking on a journey like this?
The training's really important, and it's really important that you do it as a team because it bonds you closer, and also it makes you understand each other's strengths and weaknesses, and not to highlight the weaknesses, but to know who's strong in what areas so that you can rely on that. And eventually, the idea is to cover everybody's weaknesses so that everybody's as good as they can be. So physical training, we were in the gym every day. Also the technical training. So we all had areas of responsibility and understanding the boat and what was needed. So I'm the medic on board. So I was very much about everybody's health and well-being and making sure the med kit was ready. One of the other girls, she looked after all the sails. So she would always check the sails and she'd do any of the repairs. Someone else was in charge of the rigging. So they would check all the ropes and make sure all that was working. Someone else was the winches and the hardware. So they would service and check all of that. So we kind of did a divide and conquer. And also then before we left, just literally the week before, we did a big sea survival session together using the equipment that we have on the boat so that we would recognize it. And in the worst case scenario, know exactly how it all worked. And putting each other under pressure in difficult conditions. So we were in an environmental pool where they could make a big storm happen. And we were there in our survival gear, getting in life rafts and making sure we knew how all the safety stuff worked. And I think once you've gone through that, you understand that you never want to actually do that for real. And it's a good reminder then, as the weather approaches and we need to be looking after each other, that we just remind each other of what we did and that we don't want to do that. So I think it really helps kind of set the scene for having each other's backs, being, very team orientated and looking out for each other. Yeah,
for sure. And if anyone's listening thinking, I'd love to do that, I'd love to take on a challenge like that, where do people start? What should they do?
So I don't think everyone needs to go around the world. Some people might have it as a dream and an ambition. But actually, if you haven't sailed, I would highly recommend trying it, giving it a go. And I think it's very important that your first experience is a very positive one. So, set sail in the sunshine, have lovely weather, have a positive experience. And then if you enjoy it, you can do more. There's lots of ways to get on the water, whether it's beach clubs or in sailing clubs with dinghies or on a cruising boat. That's amazing if you take your hotel room to a different location every day. It's super cool. It's a great way to explore and to meet new people. So I would say, don't knock it till you try it. Go with other people that know what they're doing. Sometimes that gives you a bit more confidence, and you can get to explore all areas of the world. So I just, I really encourage people to do it and to do it in a fun and safe way.
Yeah. And how long does it take for people to train and get licenses and things like that?
It's easier than you think. It doesn't take years of commitment. You can go, decide you like it, and you can do little courses of like 5 days. And you can get your tickets and you can get your competent crew with the RYA, which is a recognised authority all over the world. And then you can get your day skipper. And once you do that, you can start going on charter holidays and having your own boat. So you can either go with a company where they provide the skipper and it's all done for you. But if you're quite keen to learn, get your tickets and join a flotilla, and then you've got the best of both worlds. You manage your own boat and your own space with your friends, but you've got the support of a lead crew if you need help.
Yeah. So is this a complete way of life for you? Or when you're not doing a challenge, are you like, I'd rather do anything than be on a boat right now? Or do you want to be on boats all the time?
No, I genuinely love it. I absolutely love what I do, and I consider myself very lucky. So I'm always trying to sail as much as possible, but it does mean that I'm away from home a lot. So in the quieter years, I really enjoy being home and having my garden and visiting my friends and family that I don't get to see. But yes, as soon as the next big challenge comes up, then I'm ready to sign up and start working towards it.
And is there another one in the pipeline?
I really hope so. We did say at the end of January that we'd learned so much, we really want to put that into practice again. So the ambition definitely is to go and do it again. Multi-hull sailing has changed the way I sail. I'm still racing on lots of other boats in different places, but there's definitely another around the world in me for sure.
Oh, exciting. Well, it's been amazing to chat with you. Thanks so much for joining us. I know you brought out a book a few years ago. Is that still available? Can people get that on Amazon?
Absolutely. It's called Against the Flow, and it's kind of my story of how I got to be there and the influences in my life to get to sail around the world, and my first wrong way round. So if you read that, you know more about me than I know about myself, or that I admitted to at the time. But it's been lovely to come on and share my story. Thank you.
Oh, pleasure. Dee Caffari MBE, thank you very much for being with us.